Good afternoon, everyone. I'm joined by Adrian with 863 Seminole TV, and we're here to talk about some of the recruits that come on campus this weekend, just talking about the big recruiting weekend, and also talking about a commit that we just got this weekend as well. Super big for Odell Hagens there. And I just want to discuss a little bit on how team practice went and who stood out in those moments. And we'll also be kind of discussing some of the players that we expect to emerge this season that not a lot of many people are talking about. Let's go ahead and start off with KJ Sampson. He was the 6'3", 285-pound defensive tackle from New Bern, North Carolina, and he can play defensive end and also defensive tackle. It's very huge for Florida State going forward because they prefer him at the defensive tackle position. And with Fabian Lovett and also Robert Cooper, they're going to be leaving the program possibly after this season. And that's really big for Florida State to be able to get that. I know it's a lot, and a lot of people want to say, well, it's not over until December 15th. But it's a good start for Florida State going forward with that. Darren Reed and also Jordan Hall are two other defensive tackles that we're really big into, and I think they really want to get those three defensive tackles in there for Odell Hagens. And then we got a guy like Jeremiah England. I thought whenever he came in with his family members, they were absolutely loaded out in FSU gear. I thought that was a commit possibly right there, but he did announce that he is going to be deciding on his birthday, August the 10th, And it's going to be a big thing for him. Florida's kind of on the outside looking in there. Could be a possibility there. Santana Fleming, he come on with the South Florida Express bus, and there was a ton of prospects on that bus. He wore an FSU jacket, very big there. He's always been a big Florida State fan going forward. Brandon Ennis was also another guy that come out of South Florida Express as well. He's a very big five-star wide receiver that's going to be very important for Florida State going forward. Adam Hopkins was kind of the surprise visitor there. He was actually wearing a SpongeBob shirt, believe it or not, and it was kind of a funny moment there. He was a really funny guy, and I thought that Florida State's done a really good job with him so far. Speaking of the big guys, Roderick Kearney and also Lucas Simmons, they're both massive human beings. Lucas Simmons is about 6'7", and USC and Florida State are his top two choices basically there. And we also talked to Roger Kearney earlier on after he finished his visit, and he did say Florida State was number one in his on his list so far. That's going to be very big for Florida State going forward with that. We got another guy in Tommy Kinsler. He's a three-star offensive guard out of Ocala, so he really likes Florida State going forward there. Big Burley, the five-star defensive tackle there, he really likes Florida State. You also have Wilkie Denard. He also said that Florida State was his top school going forward there. Very big out of Fort Pierce. And Darren Reed, like I said, big Florida State guy. Jordan Hall, another big Florida State guy. You got the cornerbacks and safeties and Damari Brown, Sharif Denson, and also Damian Fagan as well. They all enjoyed the visit. They all come on the South Florida Express bus. And I'm telling you, that bus was huge. Once they come in, everybody was coming. I know a lot of people are talking about Chris Parson. They were all worried about that debacle that happened a couple of days ago, and everything's really well. You could actually hear Mike Norvell in the background inside the building, and you could hear out an emphatic yes when he came into the building. So it was very cool to see that. Ironically enough, Mike Green Jr., he actually came with his father. I was actually parked next to him, and he is a massive human being. He is really starting to build on some size there, and I think he could be a big piece there. And the last one is Vantravius Jacobs. He was also another three-star wide receiver commit that's going to be huge for Ron Dugans going forward. But with all that being said, what recruits are you most excited about out of that list, or any more that just didn't come on the list that I talked about?
Oh man, I'm just happy that they got they got the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I think they're going to target. I think they're going to do what they did with the O-line previous class. I think that's going to be the primary focus of this class is defensive line heavy, which is a good thing because, like you mentioned, Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, those guys are NFL players, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people were even surprised that Lovett came back. So they're going to have to replace those guys, and we do have guys on the roster. Don't get me wrong, but they're going to have to replace the depth and all that. So I thought kid out of North Carolina, Sampson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's a good one. That's a good one to start off with. Good momentum. And Santana Fleming's kind of the one that, for me, because I know he's been FSU's been on him really since this time last year, probably before that. But I remember his name popping up this time last year. And I know, and they need some, we know what happened this last recruiting cycle, right? We don't need to get into it. We need some wide receivers. And I think Fleming could be like, I know we have the 3-star Jacobs, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know we have the 3-star committed already, but Fleming's could be, he's one of the guys I'm looking forward to. I think Ennis might be a long shot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I know he loves him some Lincoln Riley. But he would be awesome, obviously, but I think Fleming, they're teammates, if I'm not mistaken. And,
yes.
I think Fleming, maybe he can be that first domino. So that's the guy that I am hoping that we get him on board very soon so we don't have to continue to recruit him. I mean, obviously, you got to continue to recruit him, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, hopefully we can lock that one up pretty soon.
Yeah, and there is, I think Hakeem Williams is coming today. He came with his basketball coaches and his mom. And then also you got Patrick. Peyton Kirkland, I think. Who was it?
Williams.
Carlos Williams and all them are related to, I believe, Tyler Williams.
That's the guy out of Lakeland, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
He's a wide receiver as well, isn't he?
Yes.
The interesting one.
I like Florida State's chances, and he likes the program, but I'm not sold on it being a number one school for him just yet. I think it's more along the lines of you have to see it to prove a little bit of things, and you want to see 7 or 8 wins, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but it's tough. You got most of these guys, and you're getting those relationships in, but you have to win on the field. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, you have to at least, even if 6 wins, I mean, postseason success is something we haven't seen in the last one time in the last 5 years.
You got to make a bowl. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I know
at a minimum, you got to make a bowl.
I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, I like the team going overall, and we'll kind of get into that. But with the position groups and everything, is defensive tackle, you think, the biggest need so far that needs the most attention, or do you think it's more along the lines of a linebacker?
As far as this year or next year?
For this recruiting cycle coming up.
You meant linebacker's a good one too, because realistically, you've only signed one. I mean, you in the last 2 or 3 years, because Eubanks left the program. Jaleel McCray left the program. So realistically, you don't really have any linebackers that you, except for Stephen Dix, I think.
Yep.
I think he was a part of Mike's first class, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it's a little bit concerning because not many linebackers came to the visits. I didn't see many linebackers there, and
I know from what I read, I know they had a 2024 guy.
Yeah,
but he doesn't.
Yeah, I saw him. He was actually out of Brunswick, but he came with his coach, and I just recognized him because Kanaya Charlton. He actually took a lot of pictures with him in visits, so I recognized his face. But it's like Kalen LaValle is a 3-star linebacker that we're kind of into, and it's like D. Creighton from Georgia. He's okay, but they didn't really even extend the invitation for him to go to the recruiting event this weekend. So it's a little bit concerning. I mean, it's just you got Grayson Howard from Georgia also. He's a really good linebacker, but there's not a lot of guys they've really set themselves good for. And I'm afraid that it's going to be kind of the same situation last year where they put so much and put too many poker chips on the table for a guy like Wesley Basaint that struck out. And then where do you go from there?
I think a lot's going to depend on how these guys play. We keep referring to on the field because when's the last time FSU had a top quality linebacker?
Yeah.
Can you name them?
And even Stephen Dix.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, you could say Stephen Dix was a 4-star prospect, but we all knew he had limitations. I mean, he was just basically a project that hadn't played football for very long. It's the same thing with DJ Lundy. I mean, he was a former wrestler and only played for a couple of years. So
maybe Kalen DeLoach, and maybe with the addition of Bethune, that our linebackers actually look, good, and then maybe linebackers are get interested. But linebacker is definitely concerning. Probably more concerning than defensive tackle, because at least with D tackle you have Joshua Farmer. You did sign Bishop Thomas. You did sign Daniel Lyons.
Yep.
You still Malcolm Ray will still be on the team next year. You still got some guys. Yeah, I don't know because Amari Gainer's probably gone after this year. If Deloach has a great season, he could be gone after this year.
Yeah,
he's eligible. So there's some. Bethune is gone. You know, he's a one-stop guy. Bethune is not going to be here next year. So yeah, there's probably some concern in that linebacker room. Absolutely, I think you're right on the money with that.
Gotcha. Well, we'll go ahead and get into kind of the team side of things, kind of talking about some of the observations I had while watching practice. Practice was kind of open because most of those recruits and their parents were all up there. So I was able to go in front of Dick Howard Stadium and watch some of that. So first thing I noticed is Jordan Travis, man. He looks the part. He is, you know, he's got all the muscle there, and he's very confident in all of his abilities. He was really throwing really nice balls there. A.J. Duffy looks really good at 223. I thought he looked very good, well put together. Thought it wasn't a lot of weight. Thought it was just the right amount there. Tate Rodemaker actually had some nice throws. I was very impressed with that. He was gaining some confidence. Not saying that he comes into a factor right now, but I think a lot of his growth and development is going to come off this offseason. The next guy I thought about was Trey Benson. He looked very elusive. Not sure how to really do this because they weren't really in pads, but overall I thought he looked very quick. I didn't see much hobbling or anything like that coming off basically a year and a half ago of a major injury. Micah Pittman looked natural at punt returns. Very impressive to see.
Let me stop at Trey Benson real quick.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to just say this, because it's not just you. There's a lot of people I'm hearing that are really impressed with him.
Yeah.
He's not from what I heard, no knee brace, right? So the knee can't be too much of a concern.
Yeah.
And they're saying when you compare him to the running backs on the current roster, he just looks different, like bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
So that could be a situation where obviously, you know, I wasn't too big on him, but I could be eating a lot of crow with that one. So I'm happy. Like if he turns out to be what they're saying he is right now, granted, one day of spring practice doesn't prove anything, but if he turns out to be what they're saying.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit nervous, like you said. I mean, the injury still scares me a little bit, but, you know, the fact of the matter is when we get close to August and September, he's going to be almost 2 years removed from the injury at this point. Right. And it's basically, you know, it's just ligament damage. It's not a situation where Mackenzie Milton almost lost his leg. So Mike Norvell is really impressed with Trey Benson. He was one of the first schools, if not the first offer for him. So they've always been really high on him. But, you know, he ran that 4.49 40-yard dash. Not sure how much that really means now. But if you really think about it, his kind of combination of being 6'1", 215, can really go through tackles, really elusive at the point of attack. So maybe it works out. I'm hoping that he's the running back 2. I wouldn't go as bold to say he's running back 1. I still think Trayshawn Ward is that guy there. Hopefully a lot of people want to see DJ Williams, but the weight loss is kind of there. I thought he was going to be kind of a goal line 3-down back there, but it just doesn't look like that's the case. Rodney Hill actually impressed me a little bit. I thought that overall he was very fast. He was faster than I expected. So,
good things about Rodney.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson and Malik McClain really stood out to me at wide receiver. I know you're super high on Malik McClain. I am as well. I think that Winston Wright Jr., he didn't really play a little bit there. He's still kind of getting back. He should be ready for Monday. So that's the biggest thing there. Johnny Wilson actually had, I think, a couple of 50-50 opportunities that he was able to get away from some of the defensive backs. So very impressive to see. Yeah, 6'7". I mean,
it should be.
You got to turn those, 20-80s from last season to 50-50s. That's what you're hoping at the end of the day. Offensive line depth is really deep. Like I have never seen so many. I think I probably saw 20 offensive linemen out there, at least 20.
I love it.
And I was very impressed with Caden Lyles. He is an absolute monster.
He's a grown man.
Yeah. Robert Scott looks like an NFL draft pick. There was a lot of times where Coach Atkins was talking to Robert Scott on the side. He was really getting his hand techniques down, a little bit of footwork there. Your guy, Lloyd Willis.
Can I say this about, before we get to Lloyd, can I say this about Robert Scott real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Robert Scott is so pivotal to not even on the field. Obviously, we'll get to on the field. Robert Scott is pivotal to what this coaching staff is trying to sell and this O-line recruiting. I mean, Atkins did a phenomenal job this past year. But Robert Scott was the first tackle they took. Remember, he was only a 3-star coming out, but he was like the guy that when Mike Norvell got the job, he was like, I know Purdy was like the sexy first pickup of Mike Norvell's class, but Robert Scott has been the guy that they put in there from the beginning as a freshman, and he's been nothing but money since he's been on the team.
Yeah.
And the fact that NFL teams are thinking that this guy, you know, like he's getting NFL buzz is huge because they can sell that on the recruiting trail now. So I think Robert Scott is very pivotal to FSU going forward, off and on the field.
Yeah, I think he can play either left or right. I don't think that's really a concern for him now. You know, he had so much experience at left tackle last season. The one big thing for him was he got a little bit hurt last season, a little bit banged up. You were trying to see how he kind of fought through that, and he really did a nice job considering where he was physically right there. And I mean, he is literally looks like an NFL draft pick, and he, like you said, I think the latest NFL mock drafts has him going, I think 23rd to the Bengals, I believe. You know, those scores are changed, but
that's pretty high. But yeah, it's going to change. You got the season coming up, but that's high right now. That's impressive.
And then we had a couple of guys too. Thomas Schrader getting more healthier. I thought that was really pivotal for them. Zane Herring actually showed some flashes that I was very surprised about. So maybe
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, maybe you got 7 guys there. I'm hoping 7 or 8 at least. You're hoping that Darius Washington can put it all together.
I like Darius. I'm just concerned about the lack of weight gain.
Me too, and that's the thing. I don't know because I really don't want to put Bless Harris out there at tackle. I don't think he's quite ready yet. I think you need to put him in for a redshirt because he's a redshirt junior. I think if you theoretically can start him as a redshirt senior, that would be amazing. You know, you can be able to get him up to speed, get him in the program a little bit longer. If Lloyd Willis turns out to be a right tackle and maybe you put a Darius Washington at right guard.
So I've heard some good things about Lloyd, and I think the weight loss of him blows my mind. That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
That means that he had a great offseason and he's dedicated. But what exactly did you see from him? Like, how did he look? Because I heard he ran with the ones.
Footwork was very impressive. Very quick to the point, like every time, because they were doing a lot of speed rush drills. So a lot of times, you know, he was able to get on an island out there and he was able to really do a lot of good things. I mean, you saw a lot of good things out of him. He played a little bit of left tackle on one side, played a little bit of right tackle on another side. So he got a little bit of work at both sides. So it was really impressive to see him there. I think he's more of a left tackle, but I don't really want to take too much away from Robert Scott if he's more comfortable at that left tackle position for him. But I think he can play either one. I personally, like I said, I think left tackle is the best spot for him. But, I think he's really good. I think he's a mauler, especially at run blocking as well. They tried him at guard, but I don't know.
I think he lost too much weight to be a guard. That tackle sounds perfect for him. What about I got a question for you about Estes.
Yes.
Saw some good stuff out of him. Is it possible that he could play center and we move Caden to guard?
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. They've really tried to figure out what he is. So I've seen some projected depth charts saying that he's going to be a guard or a center. You know, he's an interior lineman. He will never be a tackle at the collegiate level. But – and that's not a knock on him. I just think that's where his skill set suits him best. Overall, they did try him at guard a little bit, and I don't think he's primarily a center. They tried a little bit of center with Schrader. Darius Washington had a little bit of center. He's got experience there anyway.
So who's backing up Caden? Because that's the big question. Because Maurice, I mean, look, I love Maurice's brain. I love his heart. He has a heart, but I mean, Maurice just
the weight thing. Yeah, and I'm not saying he's Jalen Goss, but I am saying that he's got to get bigger and faster and stronger. And the only way you're going to do that is develop. You can't be thrown into the fire again. So that's why I think Caden Lyles is going to be the starter. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Caden Lyles will be the starting center for Florida State going forward. But what will happen with Maurice Smith? Because I actually think, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but next season, I actually think Quayshawn Sapp is going to be the starting center.
You think Quayshawn is going to be?
Quayshawn is going to be the starting center.
What about Woody?
Redshirt freshman.
If he makes it to campus, what about Antavius Woody?
If he makes it, I think he'll be a guard, personally.
Okay.
If he plays tackle, it may be right tackle. I don't see it being. I can see him being either guard. And Quayshawn's the same way. I think he can play left guard all the way to right tackle. He's never had experience with left tackle, but he has snapped the ball because that was the primary thing for him at Leesburg, was that he was going to be snapping the ball and being able to prepare for all 4 positions right there.
He's going to be a massive center.
Yeah. And I think he's going to slim down too. He's got a lot of extra weight. I actually saw him because he was actually out there recruiting a little bit. Since he's not enrolled on campus yet, he was massive. I don't know if he's quite 340 like his profile says, but he's got to at least be 320, at least. Speaking of somebody else that stood out in size was Pat Payton.
Thank God.
He was a man. I didn't even hardly recognize him. He told me what's up, and I was looking at him. I was like, it dinged on me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's who it is. And
how do he move with the extra weight on? How's he move?
I liked him. I liked it. I thought previously, I can't remember what his previous weight was, but he looked very quick, but he was very light, and I think the weight serves him well. I don't think it really sticks out as making him slower. I think it's more just along the lines of making his frame build out a little bit more. The one guy I want to see there, and I saw him a little bit, it was hard to see in that second level. So I saw George Wilson, and that's a guy that I'm kind of hesitant about. I want to see what they do because he was originally at 189, and I think
he was small. He came in small. He's a basketball player.
Yeah, and I like him, but
he only played 1 year of high school.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him just yet, and that kind of has me a little bit worried. I wouldn't
worry too much about it. I think they always brought him in as a project.
Yeah.
And you don't bring in a guy who's 180 pounds and expect 40 pounds of muscle in one off season, right?
Yeah.
I think George Wilson might be a guy, maybe not even next year, year 3, year 4, you can talk about. Because you're taking a guy who is really a basketball player and trying to make him into like a speed rush end. But how about since we're on the defensive ends, I heard McClendon had a body transformation.
Yep.
I hear he's looking really good.
Yeah.
And of course the big guy out there, Jared Verse. I hear he's a man amongst boys. How's he looking?
Actually, I heard more, and I've actually seen more out of McClendon, more than Verse right now. But I think that's more along the lines of McClendon's already been in the program for a couple of years. He already kind of knows what to expect. Same thing with Fuller. There's a lot of
Warner was running with the ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a testament to how he is. Now, Verse will more than likely be a starter. Him and Briggs, I think, will both be a starter.
Briggs wasn't out there from what I heard, right?
He is
they don't need to rush him. That's fine.
Yeah. He's still kind of not saying that he's injured, but I'm still saying that he is kind of getting back to speed. I think by about the middle of spring practice, he'll be good to go. So
they should treat Briggs how they treat. If you remember, Keir Thomas didn't play in the spring.
Yep.
They should treat Briggs how they treated Keir Thomas last year.
Yes.
We don't need to see him. We know what Briggs is. We don't need to see him.
And that's the thing, too, about Briggs is he's going to be that hybrid defensive end, defensive tackle type deal. So you're going to probably put him at defensive tackle on third downs, kind of like you did with Keir Thomas. So it's going to be the same comparison there. He looks good body-wise, but like I said, you just want to hold him out, make sure he's ready to go. Don't make any unnecessary injuries right now. You got 95% of the team out there. They're all performing and all competing at a high level. Just let it go right now.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Linebackers look really good. I thought that overall DJ Lundy looks a lot better with that weight change.
I want to see him.
Yeah. That dude, what, 60, 250? Yeah.
He was huge. Like last year he was huge and you could see it. He was Lundy's always been a good run stuffer. Yeah. It's just teams know his weakness and can exploit him on those passing downs. But if he's down to 230s, I'm very interested to see how he moves in space now.
And then Kalen Deloche looked really good too, also. So
any linebackers? I mean, I've heard some good things about Omar Graham, but he's a freshman, so I don't want to put too much on his plate. But any of those other linebackers, that those guys who they've changed positions, the Darius Green McKnights, the Brandon Gant, anything from them really?
Not really.
That's not
Gant
great.
looked a little small, personally.
When I saw the weight on the thing, I was like,
Yeah.
190. I don't know if he could.
He looked okay because I mean he was. I was passing him and Ja'Kai Douglas earlier, and he looked a little bit small. Personally, I thought Ja'Kai Douglas probably looked a little bit bigger. But I mean, I actually like Ja'Kai Douglas. I think he could be a viable piece there. I actually smoked Omar Graham Jr. After practice. I just passed by him and we had talked. We speak pretty often, but he told me it was a pretty good practice for him. It's a little bit different than high school, so he said everything's kind of an adjustment period for him. But said overall he's getting there. It'll get there eventually. So
you think they're gonna call on his number?
I don't think so. I don't think he cracks the 2 deep, honestly. I think
that's not a knock on Omar Graham.
No. I think that you got a guy like Deloche, and you also got a guy like Gaynor, which you're trying to figure out what you got in Gaynor.
Gaynor lost a little bit of weight too.
Yeah, but I don't know what they're going to do with him because he's kind of at a. They tried to figure out where to put him last year, and he's a tweener, so you don't really know what to expect, and you're hoping that something sticks, but yeah. The secondary looked okay. They won a couple of one-on-one opportunities. Azaria Thomas, a guy that I thought was going to emerge as a starting cornerback a little bit later on in the year, he looked the part. Travis Shea, I know a lot of people don't want to hear about this, performed pretty well. Renato Green.
I like Travis J. I just,
yeah.
It's time to put it together.
He's got to put his confidence back together.
Was Brownlee out there?
Will they put him at safety or will they keep him at corner?
You think Travis?
Yeah.
I feel like he played better at safety.
Yeah. And I'm surprised
they seem to really like him at corner though. So
yeah.
And I think I've said this before, man, our safety room is deep.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Travis J can crack the safety room if I'm being honest with you. So corner might be his best bet if he's trying to play.
Yeah, it was very encouraging with the defensive backs. They were winning a lot of one-on-one opportunities. They were very aggressive. Yes, they lost a couple on some, but when you're going against Johnny Wilson,
you're gonna lose some.
You're gonna lose some. So I wasn't really that worried about it. I thought defensive backs and wide receivers, they were fighting really hard. Personally, and I don't know, this is just a bold claim from myself, but I think the offense may be ahead of the defense when it comes to closer to the fall. I think they might actually have a one-up on them. That speaks to how much the wide receiver room has really improved, personally. I think that they are tip-top, and I'm not going as far as to say they are going to be a top-5 unit in the ACC, but I think they're going to be probably 7th or 8th.
And that's without Winston Wright being there now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think Winston Wright, and, a lot of people may think he's a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, whatever the case is, he's going to be utilized in the slot a ton. The one thing I want to see, and I didn't really get to see it a lot, was Deuce Spann. I think he's going to be a wild card at that.
I think it's a project, man. I know everybody's high on Deuce because he's they say he's got like track speed. I still think experience matters. And you're taking a guy who was originally a quarterback, who only has 5 receptions in his collegiate career. Nothing wrong with, him being a project. I think he's a project, but the athletic ability might get him. It might get him on, but I think there's no need to rush him.
And like I said before, 95% of the team was probably there. You had a couple summer enrollees, and you may get a couple more transfers, but I don't see a whole lot more transfers unless – I hope an offensive tackle comes in the portal because maybe you could push some other guys there, but Boyd Willis doesn't really need much pushing. Wes Harris doesn't need it either. Maybe another linebacker. There's some spots that you could fill. There's always, if you get enough talent, you can put them anywhere. But maybe a backup quarterback might not be the worst thing there. Overall, I just think that they know what they have in the team. You know what you're going to expect, and you're hoping that continuity can really put on this team and they can step further in this team, but maybe not. I just see that you bring in those summer guys and then you kind of figure out what you can do. But Yeah, there was, let's see here, Marvin Wilson, Asante Samuel Jr., Hampson Nazardine, Cam Irving, Leroy Butler, Devontae Love Taylor was working with some of the offensive linemen I saw, Christian Jones, I saw PJ Williams, and also Gabe Neighbors as well. So there's a couple other guys that I missed, but those are the ones that I saw that were coming up to the facility. So that was really cool to see. I thought it was going to be some more recruits in a bus. But whenever they come off the bus, it was just like Marvin Wilson.
Okay.
They brought a whole bus for just one person. I was like, okay. Same
Marvin
thing.
Wilson had his own bus?
Yeah, Asante Samuel did too. It was very confusing.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, yeah, they just got chauffeured in with that. But speaking of all the players and everything, what is someone that you think could really emerge? I know you're big on Wood Willis, but is there anybody else that you think that could really make a difference and maybe even get this team to elevate where it projects us to win, like winning wise?
I got a few players. I think if FSU wants to have the season we kind of need them to have at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, a guy like Lloyd Willis, but I'm not going to spend too much time on Lloyd because I've done Lloyd a million times.
Yeah.
Joshua Farmer is going to be critical to that defensive tackle, like critical. And he looks. I saw a picture of him standing next to James Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
James Coleman is not a small man.
No.
Farmer is massive. Farmer is huge from the picture I saw. I think he's going to be critical in that defensive tackle rotation. Maybe, definitely, I think he hits. I think he's in the 2 deep rotation. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah.
Which means maybe Malcolm Ray or Jarrett Jackson drops a notch, but you know.
Yeah, and I got a lot of flack from it. I did my projected depth chart maybe about a couple of days ago, and I put Joshua Farmer as my second nose tackle instead of Jarrett Jackson. And a lot of people kind of, were like, I don't know about that, but he's pretty good. He's pretty built. And I'm not saying Jarrett Jackson's a bad player. I mean, they're both going to play, but I have that feeling that, Farmer has really going to take that next step forward. And I think he has to at this point.
I agree with you there. I think if you just talk about linebacker, I think we know what we have with Deloach. I think we're pretty confident in Bethune, but that third guy, and that's Lundy or whoever, I'm going to go with Lundy. And I haven't been the biggest Lundy supporter, so to speak, but the weight loss shows me something, and I'm going to be very interested to see how Lundy plays. And that secondary for me, I like Azariah Thomas, man. I think I think Brownlee's the current starter. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, I think Thomas is going to take that spot, man. And I think it might be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and one other guy that I was kind of interested in, I don't know how he's going to go because he mainly was a really big guy in man coverage, and that was Grady Vance. And I really didn't know what to expect from him. I still don't know what to expect from him. It's just kind of a huge wild card. I don't know. And he was kind of my Trey Benson. I kind of questioned the acquisition. I didn't really know what they were really getting themselves into. I know you want to build competition in the room, but like you said about the safety position, that cornerback room is pretty massive as well.
There's a guy, Hunter Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see him yesterday? Did you see Demore Tate yesterday? Ronaldo Green's another one, right? There's a lot of guys.
And I'm a little bit nervous about Demore Tate, honestly. He's got all the potential in the world, but it's like, will he put it together? That's because he didn't really stand out. So it was just kind of like, Mm-hmm. And it's disappointing because he was a former 5-star recruit. Everybody loves talking about him, and I want to see him be successful, but can he even crack the 2 deep? And I never would have expected that. When we got him and he committed to our program, I never would have expected to say, hey, Demore Tate is going to be maybe not even be a part of the 2 deep.
I think it's crazy that Jarian Jones isn't even getting mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's a veteran transfer player, and he might not be a part of the 2 deep. I mean. Yeah,
and, a lot of people were talking about, and I won't get too much into it, but a lot of people were talking about him being a transfer candidate and stuff like that. But you also have to realize that he's already transferred from a program, so he's going to have to sit out a year either way. So would he really do that? I mean, that, with the grand mind scheme of things, I think Norvell likes him. I think they like what he brings to the table. It's just an aggressive corner. But he comes up really well in run support. He does a lot of good things right. But when he does things wrong,
It's
kind of like Jarvis Brownlee, it is detrimental. I mean, it is bad.
It's a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a touchdown. He gives up too many points.
That's what I'm worried about mostly is I don't know what to expect from him. I don't know if he's going to take that next step forward as a corner. I know he can't be anything else because he can't be a safety, personally. He played a little bit of safety in high school, but, he's mainly a corner at this point.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit nervous, honestly, about him, and I don't know if he can crack the 2 deep. I had him in my 2 deep for the depth chart, but we'll see. I think I had him behind O'Mary and Cooper, I think. So I had him.
That makes sense.
So it's a little bit indifferent. I heard I heard Ryan Fitzgerald is actually doing pretty well. So I don't know how much you want to put bank into that with special teams, but I mean, he
got to get better there too, right?
Yeah, I mean, he went 10 for 13 last year, and Mascherano had some pretty good punts. You hope he doesn't have too many punts this season, but overall they were about what you expected. Other than that, I mean, it was a pretty good day in Tallahassee for practice, just watching it in general. I thought it was about what I expected, a 6 or 7 win team possibly, maybe 8 or 9 if you get the right pieces and they develop properly. But like I said, 95% of the team is there. So these are your guys you're going to be rocking with for most of the season. So is there any other thoughts that you got or anything like that?
I got a question. Should I be concerned about Toafili?
I was a little bit concerned about Toafili. His size is really concerning to me.
I'm starting to get a little concerned, and I'm a Toafili fan, but with the emergence of a Trey Benson, and I don't think anybody's supplanting Trayshawn Ward. I still think he's the best running back on this roster.
I agree.
I don't.
Yeah, the size.
Rodney Hill seems like he might even be further along than Toafili is at this point. I'm a little concerned, and I like LT a lot.
And I got a lot of flack on one of the posts I made about Rodney Hill when we first got him committed, and he actually signed the dotted line. I actually called him a bigger, faster, and stronger Lawrence Toafili.
That's wild.
And I know Toafili was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school. He was very impressive, but he just never has gotten that weight. And they love to put him at the tailback position. I know they want to utilize him on the slot, and he catches passes out of the backfield, but he's not really a great running back. He doesn't really find the holes correctly, and he's a good pass catcher, but it's just like, how are you going to be able to utilize that? It's just like Ja'Kai Douglas. Even though I love Ja'Kai Douglas, I just don't know how you're going to be able to utilize that all the time. I hope he doesn't transfer out, but, we'll see. It's a little bit concerning. I want to see him do well, but, I mean, where else are you going to put him at this point?
And one last question. I'm going to keep it on the offensive side.
Okay.
We're raving over these transfer receivers. I mean, how are the receivers that were already on the roster taking that? How is Darren Williamson and Portier and Ontario Wilson and Keyshawn? How are they doing with the competition?
He did really – none of those guys really stood out other than Keyshawn Helton. He made a good diving catch earlier. Thought he was kind of consistent. Ontario Wilson is another guy I thought he's actually part of my starting group that I have on the outside. I think he's one of the more consistent. Not saying that Micah Pittman's going to be a reserve. People are freaking out about that whenever I had him in the 2 deep, I guess you could say, because I think he's going to play everywhere. He might even play a little bit tailback.
I think they're going to rotate a lot of receivers anyway, so you shouldn't be too concerned about who starts and who doesn't start.
Yeah, and everybody was just freaking out about that, and they were like, well, what about Micah Pittman? Why is he a second string? People freak out about that stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand that, like, Micah Pittman is going to be that guy. Now, I did see Jordan Young walking with Patrick Payton, and he looks massive. I don't know. Jordan Young is massive? Yeah, Jordan Young, I meant, yeah. He is massive. I don't know if he's going to crack anything.
That's my question.
Yeah, and I don't think he can, but we'll see. I hate it. Not trying to do a Jordan Young slam.
Well, I forgot to mention Joshua Burrell.
Yes.
He's still rehabbing. How's he look?
Yeah, I won't say too much about what I observed from a physical standpoint, but from game wise, he looked really good. Overall,
Okay.
there's a little bit more rehabbing he's got to go with his leg, if you
I
get my
figured.
drift.
Yeah, I
Um,
figured.
but I will say that he was looking better. There will be some potential there. He does look I think it's like 6'3", 230 something
He
now.
looks like a linebacker, man. He looks like a linebacker.
Yeah.
Playing wide receiver. He looks like a linebacker.
And his brother's the same way. They're both really built like that. I think his brother plays in the Army now, I believe.
I think his brother is like a safety or something, right?
Yeah. And he's massive. So it may just be a family gene. I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, Burrell is massive. I don't know if you could put him as like a flex wide receiver, tight end type. Maybe put him in the slot like him and Johnny Wilson. If you really don't know where that tight end number 2 is going to come from, because I really don't buy the whole Jackson West, Marquise and Douglas thing yet.
Really? I mean, since you brought it up, we haven't talked about tight ends. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I mean,
Like Ken McDonald and then a question mark, right?
Yeah, I have Preston Daniel as my number 2. And he's a good blocking specialist. I think he can fill that Jordan Wilson role, but will he take that next step forward as a receiver? There's a lot of uhs in this roster when it comes to tight ends, and behind Cam McDonald is just kind of a wait and see.
Anybody, right?
And I mean, I can see the potential in Jackson West and Marquise and Douglas. Even a guy like Brian Courtney, I can see him emerging. But just
what about Colby Gross?
Could be, but like he was injured most of the year last year, so it's like.
Okay. Yeah.
He had a concussion, then he had the little hand injury that he had. It kind of lingered over, so he didn't even get to play last year until the very end, and he was on scout team at that point because some guys actually took over at that point. So
how did he look in practice yesterday?
He looked okay. I mean, most of the guys looked okay, but they're all just on the same level. It's just like it's Cam McDonald, and then there's a huge drop down, and it's just like, I mean, what are you going to do at this point? I mean, you're trying to like acquire as many talented tight ends as you can, and hopefully something sticks.
I think that's just a little too concerning. You're investing too many scholarships into this position group for you not to have some answers.
Yeah, and I hate to hear it because, I mean, tight end's supposed to be a really good staple for Mike Norvell and his offense. Mm-hmm. And Cam McDonald did a good job. Jordan Wilson had some moments last year after.
I think Jordan Wilson really came on down the stretch.
Yeah, and I mean, that's coming off an Achilles injury at that point. And I just don't know. I don't know how they're going to really factor in the tight end room because I don't know if you bring in another wide receiver or if you bring in another tight end with a transfer portal. I really don't know what they're going to do with that position. It's very concerning. I will say I try to avoid talking about it as much as I can because there's just a lot of question marks, man. It's just
more questions than answers at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, you're hoping that Randy Pittman he stays committed to Florida State, the 23 tight end, but now he's going to Florida. He was on the visit to Florida, I believe, or it may have been a couple of days ago. I don't know, but we'll see how that recruitment plays out. But he's actually cousins with Joshua Farmer, so maybe that family connection is okay.
Any chance Powers comes in the summer and
maybe. But he's more he's not really a project, but it's just he's played wide receiver for so long that he actually played in high school with Chris Parson there for a little bit before Parson went away from Duncanville and went to, I believe, Tennessee at that point.
Yeah.
Parson's been everywhere. So, yeah, it's very concerning. I hate to say that, but it's very concerning.
Okay.
Is there anything else? I think I covered mostly everything.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. I mean, overall, it sounds like a good first day of practice, but obviously they still got stuff to work on.
Yeah, and we'll kind of go ahead and wrap everything up. I just want to thank everyone for watching the video today. I also want to thank Adrian for coming on and trying to discuss some of this Florida State football-related news, recruiting events, everything.
Anytime.
And I'll be sure to include the links to his social media accounts at the bottom of the video description. And be sure to like the video, comment your thoughts on what we were talking about today, and also subscribe to my channel and also to Adrian's channel. And I hope you all have a great Sunday. And as always, go Noles.
Go Noles, guys.